Everyone. Thank you very much for choosing to be here today at this time. My name is Sichaba Mutsielwa. I am from the Speakers Firm. Welcome and thank you for choosing to join the Empower Entrepreneurs Digital Conversations, a COVID-19 discussion hosted by EmpowerWorks. A very special welcome to our keynote speaker, Mr. Khandani Msibi, Group CEO of Nonsa Investment Company. Tonight, we have a broad representation of stakeholders joining us directly via Zoom, and they will post their questions directly on the chat box. There will be a Q&A at the end of the keynote speech, which will be about 25 minutes, and we'll respond to as many of your questions as possible. To get a direct invite to the next talk that is happening tomorrow, the 20th of May, 2020, by Mr. Greg Solomon, CEO of McDonald's South Africa, please remember to contact the WhatsApp number 082-088-5262 or visit the EmpowerWorks website, where we can also get other information about empowerment, empower youth, empower women, and Speakers Firm leadership summits and events that EmpowerWorks host. Just to remind everybody that this is a global world. We are live on the following EmpowerWorks digital platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the hashtag that we'll be following all this time for this conversations is Empower Entrepreneurs. COVID-19 has changed the world, and the business world could not escape this. Many business people have sleepless nights. What keeps you up at night, Mr. Khandani Msibi? Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chaba, and good evening to everybody that has logged in. Thank you for making the time to join us here. And I'd like to thank EmpowerWorks for the invitation to share my ideas and my thoughts around this time that has become a very difficult time for everybody. And Chaba, your question about what keeps me awake, it's a very interesting question in a sense that when everything is disrupted, you actually don't even know what keeps you awake. I think we are all in the state of conservation and protection of what we have, trying to avoid being infected with the COVID, trying to protect our loved ones, and those of us who are employers trying to make sure that we can protect as many employees as one can from COVID, but also to keep them employed, to keep them earning income so that they can continue to look after their own families. But it's a very difficult time. I remember you'd hear some of our elders, which is some particular period where there was dust. And in our lives, we never had an event as big as that until COVID-19 happened. We may have been threatened with disaster with Y2K, but Y2K came and went without major disasters, if any. But coronavirus pandemic, whatever its source, whether it's China or the US, it actually does not matter. What matters is that this virus has landed on our shores and has disrupted us in a manner that we have never been disrupted. It has the potential to reset everything that we know. As it is, we have EmpowerWorks that has adjusted very nicely in that we now are meeting online as opposed to a physical conference, and these are some of the impact of this virus on ourselves. And it's going to continue to wreak havoc, largely as a result of us being human. I mean, human beings, we are the least rational of all creatures. In that we think, and often in our logical response, we actually don't make as much sense as we think we do. And as a result, we are sitting in a position where throughout the world of business is changing involuntarily. Our lives are changing involuntarily. The difficulty that every businessman, woman is facing is that for the first time, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and we don't know how we're going to react because we could never decide how we're going to react to something that we don't know. But the impact of this virus, if you look at the South African economy, which is largely anchored on mining historically, and in many ways so, in that the mining industry is the primary industry upon which all other industries are built. That you dig the minerals from under the earth, the engineering suppliers supply, you hire employees, they buy insurance, they open bank accounts, they buy bread and textile. And that's how all the sectors of the economy are built, including the state sector, which collects tax across the board. All of that is disrupted. And I think the most interesting observation is that globalization, as we have known it, is under significant threat. And not that I'm necessarily a proponent of globalization, but it is a concept and philosophy that has been ruling the world for many decades. I think what is happening all over the world is a return of nationalism, that all the nations are seeking ways in which they can strengthen themselves and they can survive and they can come out of this crisis much better than other nations. It become the competition amongst the nations, much more pronounced between the United States and China, with Donald Trump calling for U.S. manufacturing to come back to the U.S. I mean, they've been hit with significant job losses that threaten to create an unprecedented unemployment rate of about 20% in the U.S. And because they are an economy that has a significant internal consumption, they are calling their manufacturing back to say we can manufacture a lot of goods ourselves as a country and take away from China. It's important for South Africans to understand that this is the U.S. taking away what belonged to the U.S. from China in order to strengthen the United States. And South Africa is in a very peculiar position in that our predisposition has always been about foreigners coming to invest and create jobs in South Africa. That's gone by a long mile, given that economies are conserving, they're recalling, they are trying to survive in the home country, and we are nowhere near their priority list. And it's a great lesson for South Africa in that over many years, our leaders have de-emphasized manufacturing. In fact, we have deindustrialized the country over the past 26 years. We've lost the cost competitiveness of Eskom. We've lost the the steel competitiveness through ISCO, which is now ArcelorMittal, largely foreign-owned. We become a country that is exporting primary materials. And I think the fact that we know how to mine, we have some of the deepest mines in the world. Our people risk their lives going into these mines, that it is important that we begin to think about how we can beneficiate these minerals when the world is actually in this current state where everybody is withdrawing from what we used to call the global market and focusing in the local market. Our challenge as a country is that of regaining the confidence in South Africa's ability to, one, take care of itself, and two, be the exporter of finished goods and products to the rest of the world. There isn't any other way in which this country is going to survive if it does not beneficiate its own minerals. And we've always had the advantage in the whole continent, that we have a continent of 1.2 billion people, that we, with our manufactured goods, should have been the primary supplier of a lot of goods that are imported from China and from the US and from Europe. And not only that, we should be assisting the continent to industrialize as well, so that we can have a much broader and bigger prosperity within the continent, and also by helping to industrialize other African countries, we create a much bigger middle class, and we create much more demand for goods and services, and the continent's economy grows, and we're able to defeat poverty and starvation and the lack of infrastructure across the continent. But talking to entrepreneurs and business owners, like ourselves, we're all facing an existential threat, an existential threat that could invalidate your business within the twinkle of an eye. And I think if one could begin to understand the extent to which some of the activities in some sectors are actually going to result in the destruction of even sectors that some of the struggling sectors rely on. For instance, the retail industry, which at face value, because it has been operating since lockdown, should theoretically be okay, but it is not. We've seen how a lot of these retailers are looking up to their landlords, who are the property owners, to provide them with a reprieve in as far as the payment of the leases are concerned. And I've always asked myself to say that now, who is going to stand behind the property owners? Because if you don't pay rent, it means that I can't pay my bond. And if I can't pay my bond, what is the implication of that? And I think that analysis is very important, so that we understand what it is that we are dealing with. And every business is going to be affected. Nobody is going to come out of this unscathed. If you are a retailer, your landlord wants rent, and the problem that you sit with is that some of your clients have not earned income for 2 months, and therefore they don't have the money to buy the goods and services that you are selling. And as a result of that, you're going to be ordering less from the manufacturer, who is going to be ordering less from the farmer. And then we have a domino effect in terms of the impact of COVID on all businesses in South Africa. And how the question would be then, how do we survive in this environment? I think if your only strategy for survival is to protect what you have or what you had before COVID, you have a problem, because you are now operating in a domain of the unknown, in that you have no idea if you're going to be on level 3, what level 3 is going to look like, how long are you going to be on level 3 before we're level 2 or level 1, and what is going to be the impact on the volume that you are driving at the moment, and what sectors are really going to open up. And I'll give you one classical example that initially with level 3, they opened up partially for auto sector to operate, but the car dealerships remained on lockdown. And the difficulty that you have as an auto manufacturer is that you can operate, but you've got nowhere to take your goods because your dealerships are actually on lockdown. And they're going to change that very quickly, touchdown, but you may not have that kind of an influence as an SMME or even a company that is not in what we consider to be key sectors of the economy. Key sectors of the economy have a way of engaging with politicians. Many sectors of the economy are very politically weak, and therefore, when there's a regulation they don't like, they may not be able to move politicians to make concessions. And therefore, the question remains as to what are you going to do that is different going into the future? What is it that you have been thinking before COVID that you are going to be executing that is going to redefine your business going forward? And I think maybe to make an example with our group, that we are fortunate in that we've been working on operating in a number of sectors over many years. I mean, our group started off as a funeral services provider. We entered insurance, bought an insurance license. We entered medical aid. We administered CISO Medical Fund. We bought SALT, which is a retirement fund administrator. We bought an asset management company. And before COVID, we were working on biotech. And whilst we know that there's very little that we can do to change the situation in our current financial services sector, what will be in the next couple of months will be. We've survived well so far. We haven't been in a position where we needed to retrench anybody. I don't know how long we will hold on. Nobody knows how long they're going to be able to hold on with what they have. But touch wood, we have held on. But more importantly for us is that during this COVID period, we've been working very hard on our biotech, because it is the future that we want to create for the group and for the country. We do believe that South Africa as a country should be a global leader in biotech. And I say this without any fear of contradiction. I'm very much confident of what I say, and it's premised on what I've seen. I've seen the capability of this country in biotech. This country is fortunate in that not only do we have mineral endowments, but we also have biodiversity that is unparalleled in terms of the plants with potential medicinal properties. We are allowing foreign companies, pharmaceutical companies, to harvest what is actually our birthright in this country, and to create novel pharmaceutical products. And we're entering the space. And that space is awash with a lot of scientists and a lot of institutions like UCT Vets, the CSIR that we work very closely with, University of Northwest. In fact, somebody also told me that TUT is very much advanced in a pharmaceutical formulation. So my encouragement to entrepreneurs is that don't work only to save what you have. Create something new. COVID on its own, like any other crisis that we'll ever face in this world, brings in threats and opportunities. I mean, we are holding this meeting on Zoom, and if you look at the share price of Zoom, I mean, the valuation in January before COVID was around, I think, $10 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And the last time I checked, it was over $52 billion, which means that they've actually gained substantially from COVID-19. It is possible. I mean, some of the companies like Take-A-Lot are flourishing in this environment. So there are threats and there are opportunities, and your business and everybody's business is faced with threats and opportunities. There may be things you've done in the past that did not seem to have traction, and maybe COVID has triggered an opportunity for those innovations. And on our part, I can think of a young man that we helped who had an online religious platform. And we supported this young man, I think 2 years ago. Nico, we've been working with him. His app is Rejoice and Noise. And with this COVID-19, it has presented an opportunity for his app in that now churches are being held online, and Nico's services have become in demand. He's gotten himself offices in Sentin, employs about 21 young people. So there's opportunities that we needed to leverage. For Black business, I mean, we've been largely excluded in the economy, and this economy has been rudely disrupted by COVID-19. And I think the worst thing that can happen is that we don't emerge out of COVID-19 with a new leverage in the economy, because things are not going to be the same. They're definitely not going to be the same. So many things are going to change, but with all that change comes opportunities, and the operators are going to have to think very creatively. This is not the time to dig your head in the sand. This is the time to get out of there and begin to test opportunities. I mean, banks are soon going to have a crisis in that they will have far more money than they know what to do with, because they continue to be profitable, but the kind of businesses they used to support are going to be disrupted, and they're going to be faced with either chasing dead money with good money or investing in new ventures. And my money is in that they'll probably find it much more fruitful to invest in new ventures. Retirement funds have never been battered the way that they are battered by COVID-19. And I think trustees are going to be thinking very carefully about putting all their eggs in one basket of listed equities. And this brings in the possibilities of private equity and unique funding instruments that will fund not only existing businesses, but the establishment of new businesses. Because you can imagine that trustees are facing a crisis in that their members are losing jobs, and those jobs are not coming back with the old economy as we have known it. That economy is not coming back. What will come back is something very new that is going to be created by entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs that have very little to lose, but a lot to gain from this COVID-19. I stand as a person who accept that this virus is very bad on their business and on our lives, but we say so because it has disrupted what we know. What we don't know is what is going to come out of the rubble of COVID-19. And we need to be the creators of the outcome from that rubble and not the victims of that rubble. I think we are sitting at a very, very interesting point as Black business, as aspiring entrepreneurs, that we can enter the world of business at ground zero. This is ground zero. It's never going to get lower than this. It's never going to get to a point where nobody is anybody's customer. All customers are up for the taking. And if you have products, ideas, services that you can market, this is the opportunity for you. And one of the most interesting thing, and again talking about us as a group, is that we've realized that foreign companies that are below the radar, and below the radar here I'm talking not in pharmaceutical, not Pfizer, right? Or not Bristol Myers Squibb, right? But the companies that are startups like ourselves, we've come across a lot of those in the UK, in the US, in Russia, that are much more willing to give us IP. And here I'm not talking generics. I'm talking branded, unique IP that you can market in the South African market. And we're working with a number of them. And I'm not saying that we're not working with the big companies, but I'm just saying that often people are intimidated by the size of these multinational companies. But there's also companies in a lot of countries, Ukraine, India, that we're dealing with, which are much more prepared to give IP to Black companies in pharmaceuticals, in energy, in a whole lot of areas where they don't come in as investors necessarily, but they come in as IP providers. You may pay a royalty, or you may order components from them for your own manufacturing. So I'm just saying that days are bad, but it is not doom and gloom all the way. There's opportunities for all of us, and we speak as people that have seen those opportunities, and would like to inform everybody that the world has not come to an end. The world has just changed, right? And it is possible for us to be that change as well, and to be the drivers of change, and to be the beneficiaries of the change taking place, and to emerge post-COVID as strong business people, as a dominant economy in certain sectors. South Africa has what it takes to become a dominant player in a number of sectors. And here I'm talking high science. I'm not talking just the service industry. I'm talking manufacturing. We do have the capability as a country. We do need, as a business as well, to think about cooperating much better, investing in the kind of businesses that we believe amongst us carry the best promise for success and carry the best promise for disruption of the old world, which is the world before COVID-19, the pre-COVID-19 world. That world is gone, ladies and gentlemen. That world is not coming back. The world that we are going into is your world. It is my world. It is a world that you and me can create and define and position ourselves as winners and move South Africa to the top. Thank you very much.
Sure, on the dot. Thank you very much, sir. Do you want me to take some of the some of the questions to you, or are you able to see them?
No, I think if you can read them for me.
Okay. Umzolisi, oh, by the way, when I read, because I come close to the screen, let me just kill my video and just leave the audio so that you don't just see my big face. Umzolisi says, given the current situation investment-wise, which fields will you recommend if somebody wanted to start a business of their own? And Takula asks, my leader, does SA have the necessary advanced technicians and technical machines to engage in rigorous production and up the beneficiation process?
I take those two.
Yeah.
There's two sectors that have survived COVID very nicely, other than retail. It's pharmaceuticals. Everywhere in the world, pharmaceuticals is like booming because the world is looking up to pharmaceuticals to resolve the problem. And the food industry, because whether we are on lockdown or not, we must eat. We may not drink, but we must eat. So the food remains a primary sector that we have to invest in, from the land in terms of farming to processing, as well into retail, and then a pharmaceutical. I think if you are thinking about trading in the typical COVID environment, those are the sectors that you need to be in. And I'm excluding banking because someone might say, no, but if you own the bank, you're going to survive. I mean, the banks have been given money by the Reserve Bank, so it's a different game altogether. It's not necessarily the kind of entrepreneurship that is available to every man and woman. Does South Africa have the technicians? I don't know, Mina, if anywhere in the world you're going to find unemployed engineers and as many unemployed chemists as we have in South Africa. For a long time, our business people have been saying, no, we don't have jobs because we don't have the skills. And I think one of the things that we have done very well, and this is much against what some commentators say, we've done very well in the field of education, that we have a lot more unemployed graduates, and amongst the unemployed graduates, there's a lot of engineers, there's scientists, there's technicians, we have unemployed artisans. I mean, you look at what we produce from the universities of technology and also other universities and institutions of higher learning. We are producing a lot more than this country can employ. And someone might say, sure, they don't have the skill, but you get the skill from doing, right? But once you have the theoretical training and a little bit of practical experience from university or University of Technology, you have what it takes in order to enter the job market and be competent within no time. We have the skill. Do we have the machinery? We may not have some of the machinery, but you can import machinery if you want to. But South Africa, through the CSIR and universities, we can produce any machinery that we want to produce as a country. If you look at how the likes of China have been able to climb the competitive ladder, is that they started off as a low quality, which means that the machinery were not up to scratch, and they moved up the ladder to a point where they are high quality. Nobody now questions China on quality, but you don't get to be a proficient in the production of quality output unless you do it over and over and over and over. Our problem in South Africa is that we scare ourselves. I mean, other people don't have to scare us anymore. They don't have to intimidate us about beneficiating our minerals or looking at manufacturing as a base of the economy. They even wait for us to tell ourselves that we don't have the capability. But I'm debunking that myth as I speak to you now, because I've seen it. Right? I mean, I have a lot of manufacturing experience myself, having worked for ABI, Bromo Foods, and the steel industry. I do know what this country is capable of, and it is not difficult to set up a manufacturing, because the machine producers, they are not interested in what country uses their machine in order to become competitive. We can, instead of importing finished goods, let's import machines that are going to produce the finished goods, and we have sufficient consumption for that in the country. So we're capable as a country.
Thank you very much, sir. We do have quite a lot of questions, so we will see how many we can go through. I think you've already answered a question that Klasi Hopa asked around Ms. Msibi. If you were to invest after COVID-19, where will you invest at? If you haven't answered that question, maybe you can have a quick look at it. I thought I had you answer it.
I'm in biotech. I'm going biotech. I'm mopping up a whole lot of molecules and products that are available in the market. I'm working with local and international partners. That's the area I'm going into. What we've said as a group is that we want to improve lives and livelihoods in all sectors we operate in, and we've identified pharmaceutical as that area. You can check in our website, 360 Biomed, and 360 Biopharmaceutical, and 360 GSG. We're already launching a whole number of products. We're working on a COVID for the treatment, for the prophylaxis, advanced PPE, a lotion that has the properties that can actually kill the virus if it lands on your body. So that's the area I'm going into. I'm going into a biotech. In fact, there's a guy, Mashuru Ramanu. He once said in one conference that we must invest in periodic table industries, and that's where I am, in the periodic table industries.
And what are you going to do with the current investments that you hold? Are you going to look at other places that before COVID showed a lot of potential, including residential, say student accommodation, commercial? I think when you were started, you said we are now leveraging technology. Perhaps we may not even need to be in physical structures. What are you going to do with assets that you hold there?
We don't own properties except what Doves is using as mortuaries. I don't suppose that there'll be a virtual mortuary. There has to be a physical mortuary. I'm not a property person. Other properties has its own people, like Santi Donovet, Caesar, and Kebulana. They've done very well in that sector. We'll continue to be in financial services. It's an area that we've built a very nice base. We've built a portfolio of companies within the financial services that actually complement each other very nicely. We'll continue to make acquisitions in financial services and grow organically. But biotech is an area that we're going to be driving very hard derive value from. I mean, in our biotech, we're in cannabis medicine. We are in African medicine. We own a company called Ngoma SA. We are in classical pharmaceuticals. We're registering an ARV as we speak now with the SAPRA. We're getting into nuclear medicine and possibly medical equipment. So there's enough for me in biotech to focus on until I retire. I always say that my successor at 360 will find a highly diversified group, and then they can decide what to do with it. It's not my place. My place is to build a group.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I'll make sure that I read 3 more questions before we go on. So Lebogang says, SA and Africa in general needs to change their dependence on the West on manufacturing of essential goods. Whilst as business leaders and entrepreneurs, we have the appetite and skills. How do we get the necessary political support, as was seen with the Afrikaner government supporting their own in building their businesses and corporates? And Umzuluzi likes that particular question. And Umzuluzi, that's a great question. Is it wise now to know which businesses to start, which might provide substances in providing businesses? I'll come back to Umzuluzi's question there. But maybe let's answer Lebogang first. How do we get the necessary political support? Because you did make a point that small businesses don't have the know-how to engage politicians, but they need to.
It's going to be a wild response to me on the necessary political support, except to say that often the middle class and the entrepreneurial class leave politics and they don't participate in the branches of their political parties, so that and they don't go there to shape the narrative and the thinking. I think the reason why the Afrikaner business was successful with the National Party is because they positioned themselves as an intricate part of the National Party, and their business institutions were very much in tune with the National Party and influencing the National Party policies. So the whole area of politics is a contested terrain, in particular in this polarized business environment in South Africa. I mean, we don't have what is called South African business. People like to believe that we do. We don't. We have white business, which on its own has got Afrikaner and the Jewish business and Greek business. And the peculiarity of all of those classes is that they each make sure that they have a bank that supports their businesses. But as the Afrikaner business historically has made sure that it is close to the National Party. And for some reason, what we call Stellenbosch mafia is a creation of a democratic state, in that before 1994, the majority of those businesses in Stellenbosch did not exist. And those that did were not as strong as they are today. And it is the extent to which they were able to play proximity to politicians, to one, keep regulation that would have disadvantaged them from coming in, and two, to influence legislation that comes in so that it is in their interest. I think what we lack as Black business is that we've allowed the media to make lobbying to appear like a bad thing. Lobbying, we didn't invent lobbying as Black people. It's a European and American concept where there are lobbyists who are speaking to politicians on behalf of certain sectors and making sure that they can influence legislation positively, and also they can neutralize any negative legislation that comes their way. That skill Black business does not have, because we're not strong enough to have formed policies internally that we can fund their propagation within the political environment. So Black business people need to be in all influential Black political parties to ensure that their interests are represented. When you allow political parties to be driven without any Black business interest, don't be surprised when the Black business interests are not served by legislation that comes through the line or is being hurt by legislation that comes through the line.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to go into our YouTube channel where Uanele Majova says, how do we protect small South African businesses from small foreign businesses, such as the subsidized smaller Chinese shops that drive SA businesses out? I'm going to read another question that comes from the Biz Coach, #Smash, within this group. Says, how do we increase SMME advocacy, especially around access to funding? Government and Treasury announced a number of COVID-19 funds, but SMMEs are struggling to access support. How do we, as SMEs, speak with one voice, and who's best to represent us? I think you have touched a little bit on that, but please, I want you to also go into detail. And Utakula says, the present trajectory in SA businesses are still urban biased like in pre-1994. How does business plan to incorporate potential rural entrepreneurs in businesses post-COVID-19? I'll stop there.
Okay. I think the questions are related, and also related to the previous one about the political parties, right? The China proliferation of their business in South Africa, I don't think it is happening without any coordinated strategy, and we cannot respond to it without a coordinated strategy. I think we do need to engage our politicians very hard on the threats that we face from unfair competition, and we do need to have a much bolder approach in defining our posture towards countries like China, and also towards Bangladesh people that are here, Ethiopians that are here, who appear much more coordinated. And we cannot, as individuals, respond to coordinated threats in an uncoordinated manner. I think we do need the state to be protective. Every government protects its own, right? And I think our government has been blackmailed into a particular position that makes it that allows it to make us vulnerable to foreign entry and sometimes even illegal. I think there's a need for entrepreneurs through their organizations to engage politicians very hard. I think the issue of politics can only be solved in a political arena, and I may not necessarily be the right person to answer it.
Okay, thank you very much. Ayanda was asking if she can or he can ask the question orally. Our protocol is you type your questions onto the chat box. I think that answers you there, Ayanda. Thank you very much for asking. Jalifa says, education system seems to have lulled most of the majority of the population. How do we recreate a situation where we can educate, or rather conscientize people to the new world we are moving into. And also, Utakula has been supported by Classy around what happens around the rural situation there. And then Ayanda says, government is certainly aware of the fact that without the support of government, as you correctly stated in the video clip on Twitter, what do you think is causing the ANC government not to decisively play this role?
The question that I did not answer is about rural economy.
Yeah.
I think there's sufficient emphasis in our country about the rural economy and the opportunities that exist in rural areas. But there's no definition of what it is that is possible out of the rural areas. And the rural areas should be feeding townships, but we don't have an infrastructure for that. I mean, when I was running one of the companies in KZN, I got involved in a co-ops that were run by the provincial government trying to assist. And often you find that the people get discouraged because they would plant amadumbe, but they would not have a market to sell their produce to. And as a result, it discouraged all efforts to actually get rural agriculture going. I do think that the state needs to establish an SOE or an institution that will buy all the rural produce in order to get farming going in the rural areas, because the advantage that you have in the rural areas is land. And if the state were to make water implements and seeds available, but also a market, and a market that buys everything that will make our people in rural areas to stop depending on grants, but to begin to benefit from the land. That will go a long way in terms of fixing the rural areas, but also reducing the dependency on the state by our people. So it will benefit the state to actually drive the rural economy and to also create food security for the country. How we enter the new world, I think we have, and I've stated this point before, that we have enough graduates of all walks of life to achieve a lot as a country. I think what we need here is, I mean, if you remember the homelands, there used to be a lot of factories in the homelands. And nobody ever said that those factories were shut down because there was a shortage of engineers. But we have much more engineers today than we did in those days. But yet we have less factories, which actually says to you that the industrialization does not depend on skill. It depends on political will. Right? And I think that's what we are lacking. What stops the ANC from supporting black business? I think the question goes into politics as well, which I don't want to dwell too much into. I think I want to challenge the people that are concerned about the political posture of the ANC towards black business and towards SMME to participate in their respective political organizations and have that message, those questions asked in those environments, and not asked in a rhetorical way, but asked with a view to put pressure to ensure that we actually get the right outcome. So I think for that question, it's back to the branches of your political party and raise a conversation. Let's have those branches talk about how we as a people can get out of this economic quagmire that we find ourselves in.
Thank you very much. Just a quick one. Lebogang just wanted to find out if you are listed on the JSE.
No, not yet. We were intending to list by the end of this year. We have changed tact because of two factors. One is COVID, and two, it's the biotech. We didn't anticipate. We thought we were going to list a financial services group, but then we stumbled upon a biotech, and we think biotech needs to be given it's almost like it must stew first before we can go out and say to the listed environment, here we are. We are in a fundraising stage because we need to invest in biotech and also continue the strategy we intended for listing, which is the acquisition of bolt-in financial services companies. We want to continue with it. So we're raising funds, but differently, not just through listing anymore.
Okay, we have 4 minutes to go. So the next question, if you can take like 30 seconds so that we can begin to wrap up. Sam says, thank you very much, sir. What would you say are the key principles in navigating uncharted territory as the one presented by COVID-19? I love this question.
It's a philosophical question.
Exactly.
Nobody knows, Tempo. This thing has hit everybody. What you want here is to be flexible and not form any fixed views about anything, because the world has become very fluid. You cannot be fluid and flow with the flow yourselves if you don't have a vision. You need to have a vision and flow with it, with the environment as the waves go up and down. You're going with your vision, and as it goes up, whatever you can reach, you pick up, and then as it goes down, whatever is on the ground, you pick up as well. And I think it's about open your eyes. Be flexible and be quick in a decision making, because the world has become very quick. And one of the things that people always say is that you must read a lot, you must listen a lot, so that you continuously make informed decisions. It's tough times out there.
Yes, this one is gonna come from me for just 1 minute. As your business grows and it gets big, how do you safeguard against having the same mindset as all the mega businesses, the big established business, and you become one of them and you lose that which you have at the moment as you grow?
I think we are in a much fortunate position in that we have not dug ourselves into what we call the core business. We don't have a core business. Our core business is what makes money, right? And that is why we're such a diversified group. We're doing new things almost every week. We have new things happening. We're in a much more fortunate situation in that we've opened ourselves up to a new world, and we're picking up new things as we go. We don't have rigid rules in our board and in our management. And it's a new team. I'm the oldest in the group.
Fantastic. What is the one question that you wish we had asked you, given the interaction, that you want to answer, perhaps to highlight what makes you special? 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah. No, I think the question would have been around what black business should be doing now, right? In this environment. What is it that we should be doing as a collective? Right? My sense is that we should be talking more amongst one another. We should be holding a lot of these video conferences. This should be the norm. I think this has shown that you can hold all of even these branch meetings that you're talking about of political parties. You can hold them here. You can have engagement. We should have much broader networks, and we should invest in each other's business. We should understand who are the leading business people amongst ourselves and follow them. And it's something that I practice. Not so sure if you're aware of a young man, Duduze Matsana, who is our leader in the ceramics. That young man owns a factory, and there's a couple of us that formed a Twitter investment company, and we're investing in them too. We're saying to them, you lead us. This is your area. We don't know anything about this. And there's some of us that should play that role of being the support. Every Black person must be involved in some way, either as a Black business person or supporting another Black business person.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khandani Msibi, Group CEO of NOMSA Investment Company. To get a direct invite to tomorrow's conversation with Mr. Greg Solomon, CEO of McDonald's, please remember to use the 082-088-5262 WhatsApp number. This has been a live broadcast of Entrepreneurs Digital Conversation, a COVID-19 discussion hosted by EmpowerWorks. Thank you very much to our keynote, and for everybody that tuned in, really appreciate your support and your engagement. And until we meet again tomorrow, bye-bye everyone.